Alright, alien scum! Come on out and face your doom! Hello? I'm in the wrong hangar, aren't I? Thank you to Nintendo for providing me the game to make this review possible. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is the latest adventure for our girl Samus, and it is developed by Retro Studios and published by Nintendo. With the recent Metroid Dread being a resounding success for the series both in reception and sales, fans then eagerly awaited the arrival of the next big mainline game, a new Prime title. But does Beyond live up to the hype, or should there have been a different approach taken here? Only one way to find out, so let's go! Gameplay. Oh man, it's time to harness my inner Rose Dawson and say what everyone else has been thinking. It's been 84 years. Well, it hasn't exactly been 84 years, but it definitely feels that way considering that this title was originally announced in 2017 and then rebooted and restarted its development again shortly after that, completely skipping the Switch era. Or so we thought. Now flashing forward to 2025, and in that time we've had the awesome Metroid Dread to hold us over while we wait for the perceived main event to arrive with Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Look, I'll be honest, I won't claim to be a know-it-all Metroid fan, or heck, even the biggest fan in general. I've played the titles, enjoyed the games, but as far as becoming a diehard fan and knowing every ounce of lore, yeah, that's not me. Now, if you'll let me rant all day about something like Final Fantasy VII, then yeah, you'll never get me to shut up no matter how hard you try. Heck, you can even throw Final Fantasy X into the mix as well, but we'll wait for January next year to get more into that one, trust me. My point is though, even though I'm not the most up-to-date person on how deep the franchise goes, the one thing I do know is that the franchise for a very long time has been in some pretty stressful situations, and to be fair, isn't in a very healthy state. Over the course of many years, the Metroid franchise has taken some rather odd turns or questionable directions with the series, such as the weird direction that was taken with the 3DS title, Metroid Prime Federation Force, and even again that changed the perception of what people saw with Samus and her dialogue and overall character direction. Even though personally I thought gameplay-wise the game was fine, everything else beyond that was just super meh. Sales-wise, Metroid also hasn't been the talk of the town, even though hardcore Metroid fans love to do just that, talk, rather than purchase the games they say they love, with the highest selling game, not counting re-releases coming up in over just 3 million sales, achieved in 2021. Keep in mind that this franchise next year is celebrating its 40th anniversary, and its highest selling game is 3 million. While that's not overly ideal, it's still not terrible either, to be completely fair, considering how big Samus is herself in the main scheme of things and how worldwide she as a character is so beloved. I mean, heck, she was one of the first kick-butt women in gaming, so y'all better give her those dang flowers she earned, just saying. My point is, this franchise has seen ups, it has its downs, it's struggled, but it's pushed through, and Prime 4, in the vein of success of other Prime games, aims to get it back on track and keeps the momentum going that Metroid Dread has afforded to it. From the get-go here in Metroid Prime 4, which I will just shorten to Beyond going forward, you will realize that not much has changed since the Prime days, or even classic Metroid feel, but strangely, at the same time of feeling that bit of nostalgia, you will notice that yes, there's also very much that's changed too, and now it combines what worked in previous Prime trilogy, fixes any missteps they had, and now combines it to make it feel like a love child between the Metroid series itself and The Legend of Zelda. I know, on paper that seems like a rather odd combination. However, when you look back at this franchise itself, is it really that much of a stretch? Personally, I don't think so, but purists who know more than me can definitely say otherwise, and that would be fine as well. Beyond is a first-person shooter that mixes and balances all elements of the franchise with its engaging and intense combat, puzzles, stunning atmosphere and platforming, and its opening, for better or for worse, depending on who you ask, has Samus making her grand entrance, a la Halo style, as she flies through enemy gunfire and an overall chaotic battlefield that she narrowly avoids in order to begin her original objective as to why she's on this planet to begin with, and immediately upon landing, you'll be thrusted into action and begin learning what the game has to offer you right off the bat, with new abilities and ways to fight being opened up to you as you participate in combat to destroy fiends, taking on boss fights, and even coming face to face with ugly boy Silex himself. Oh man, this fool is lucky I don't have my 11 powers from Stranger Things, otherwise bro is going through a wall. But never mind, that couldn't work even if I wanted it to. Samus isn't bald. Curses, Silex, you win this day, you proclaim as you suddenly get warped away by some mysterious artifact. Wait, back up. Hang on. If being bald means you have the strongest psychic ability powers, does that mean that Sinead O'Connor is the strongest being alive in the Stranger Things universe? Mind blown. When you awaken, you're on a planet named Vuros, and like many other games do, you now have lost all your weapons and even your abilities. Great, now I just feel like Falco and Star Fox and understand his grouchiness. Gee, I've been saved by Fox, how swell. I don't like having my weapons and abilities stolen in Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and I do not like it here. But alas, I'll live, after a bit of raging out, of course. But we'll have time to rage later. We need to regain our focus and get back to seeing what Beyond has to offer us as the players. The more you push through the story, the more the narrative opens up as you scan items around the world, find logbooks that feed bits and pieces of lore for you to uncover, get hunted by a ghost-like alien race of priests who think you're Neo from the Matrix or something and dub you the Chosen One. Only there's no following the White Rabbit this time. But we have a Miles, which isn't a very good trade-off. He can be rather annoying. But hey, I mean, I've dealt with much worse as far as video game companions go, so I can't complain too much. Yeah, that's right. I'm looking at you, Fee, and adoring fan. But since this isn't your home and you're basically trapped in Vuros, there's only one way to get yourself back home, and that's to follow the yellow brick road, find the Wizard of Oz, and tap your red shoes together to get back home to Kansas. Well, sorta. While you won't be finding a wizard or tapping your shoes, you will be tasked with finding 5 master teleporter keys, and these will be your way home if and when you manage to obtain them all. Nothing to it, right? Easy peasy. The map system in this game opens up your adventure to multiple opportunities, whether you just want to go straight through the story itself or locate areas in the map that offer you ways to obtain various upgrades, such as further expansions of your missiles as you cruise around on your motorcycle named the Viola, which is capable of being summoned immediately, much like mounts from other MMO styles of games. One of my early gripes about using this motorcycle isn't even anything major that affects the gameplay itself, but more so that I can't do a super awesome Akira slide. I mean, come on, that's just dropping the ball here. But, oh well, at least Samus still hops on and off the Viola in a style with some cool backflips, so at least there's something. Using the Viola, you traverse the hub area that's basically just a large desert that has green crystals to find that give you upgrades, shrines to find, power upgrades, and while it is fun due to it giving you a break from the normal style of gameplay, it can however be perceived as empty. Now the major question on everyone's mind that hasn't played this yet is this just another open world game? And I have to say, remember when I brought up The Legend of Zelda earlier? Well, that comes into play here, because while Soul Valley is decent in size, it's still not on the same level of what you traditionally think of with open world games, such as Tears of the Kingdom, and more akin to Ocarina of Time's world map that give you the illusion of an open world that allowed you to traverse from Hyrule Field to your next town and destination, such as a farm or your next dungeon. Think of Prime 4 and Soul Valley in the same exact way, and you'll get what they're going for. By invoking a balance between original Prime game and again Ocarina of Time with its combat to puzzle to exploration ratio, it allows the game to breathe better than it would if it just focused on one of those aspects over the other, and lets long playthrough sessions feel like more of an adventure than that of a tedious chore as you use scanner and map to find targets, hidden items, routes, key places of interest, etc. It all flows well, and makes the times where you have to backtrack feel rewarding rather than a nightmare headache inducer like I've raged about in past reviews I've made. Also, I know, I didn't forget, I mentioned sand, so insert the mandatory Anakin hates sand scene, and we're good.
I don't like sand. It's coarse, rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
Fighting mini-bosses is always a great time, with each one having a different mechanic and new way to take them down, with other areas explored evolving over time and changing the more you progress through the story. Morph ball elevators, being able to mark and ping where you find collectibles or items of significance, like of course the 5 keys you need to obtain, as well as upgrades to your weapons, like when you got from a normal Thundershot weapon to something more substantial like Cybolt. There's just a ton of things to find, do, and upgrade. But in between the exploring and upgrading, what do you actually do? You know, gameplay-wise. Well, obviously, you got your awesome arm cannon pew pew action going because, come on, it's not a Metroid game without some Danny DeVito, so I just started blasting going on. Using the D-pad on your controller, you're able to freely switch from missiles, fire, thunder, ice, and various other elemental shots, which, by the way, all of these can be upgraded should you choose or want to. Obtain psychic crystals from those crazy old ghosts again, to obtain psychic abilities such as Psychic Boost Ball, and even a psychic-themed grapple that allows you to pull, whip, and use on puzzles to move door locks when activated. Combat gets smoother as well by using ZL to lock onto foes and aim for an enemy's weak spot, whether you feel like letting the game do the work for you by finding said weak spot on its own, or if you choose to say to heck with that and use free aim mode instead and want to test your own abilities out and leaving yourself finding out whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, depending on your own skill level. The game also gives you several options on how you wish to play as well, such as your traditional straightforward with a normal control scheme, using gyro aiming in handhold mode, or with your Pro Controller, or once again, my favorite addition to Switch 2 this generation, which I've harped on about over and over again, is of course mouse mode. Using mouse mode makes things feel very similar in a way to playing an FPS on your PC, but using your leg, couch, mousepad, or your desk to be able to move and aim around. But even though it does feel pretty good, I still very much prefer the old-fashioned way of just using a proper controller, just my personal preference. But hey, at least everyone has options. Overall, at the end of the day, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond exceeded my own personal expectations in a very surprising way. Sure, it's not perfect, with Soul Valley Sand Hub being a tad bit empty and not as expansive as Nintendo's other open-world attempts, some areas feeling just a bit playing it safe, companion characters like Miles being a tad bit jarring at first when he won't shut up, but luckily afterwards becomes a non-factor overall, etc. But with some awesome new psychic power-ups used to overtake normal enemies and bosses, including mini-bosses, graphics that really send home the atmosphere of the planet, and worlds that helps keep you immersed in the adventure with each area's mystery, ethereal-like music that leaves you in awe at times, and gameplay in both Soul Valley and in the game's dungeons that invoke the sense of Zelda and Ocarina of Time due to the way these explorable dungeons are laid out and how you navigate them and solve their puzzles, etc. It honestly makes me realize what Zelda itself is missing nowadays, even though I loved Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. We're missing ironclad dungeons and the sense of exploration and puzzle solving, and Metroid Prime 4 Beyond here gives me that in chunks and superbly blends both the Prime style and Zelda style together to make this an extremely fun experience, even with some of its shortcomings getting in the way of it reaching the perfection of the series. So with all that having been said, my verdict is clear. Game and Chick says bye now.